Hi, this is Chris Carlo, your friendly neighborhood acupuncturist. Thanks for looking in. I've got some great content to share with you today. You know, I'm always inspired when I'm talking with my patients at the clinic here at Acupuncture and Herbal Medicine Clinic, and it gets me kind of like thinking about things I'd like to share with other people to help them with their health. It's my focus. It's things I'm interested in. So I'm going to share this with you today. And the title of it is Stress Damages Natural Body Rhythms. You know, the way our health works, it really depends on cycles within our biology, how the body functions. There's all sorts of cycles. I mean, we can observe simple things like the heart beating, things like breathing, just breathing in and out, the idea of sleeping and waking. I mean, there's all sorts of cycles, very intricate and complex cycles. And stress can unravel those cycles, kind of throw them off. And we want to learn how to gain momentum, move forward, and not get stuck. And I want to share some insights in regards to that and how that could be helpful. So, you know, the first step is about awareness and being aware of how stress affects the body. Many people try to just ignore it. They just say, yeah, I am stressed out, but I just got to deal with it. And there could be better ways to do that for your health, your well being, and ways that could be much more supportive. All right. So there's awareness and then there's prevention. And I always like to say you can't practice prevention if you're not aware of what's going on to begin with. So let's start with that. And I always like to talk about these four pillars of health, these four pillars that are very supportive to our health. And that's going to be diet and digestion, exercise, which is a combination. You got to think of activity, but also rest. We have to have a balance. Sleep is very important, and mental emotional health. Uh, you know that is all of these are big subject areas to explore in more detail. I'm going to just take a little piece and talk about that, and we're going to focus on perhaps a little more mental emotional health today because we're talking about stress. And the type of stress I'm talking about is mental emotional stress, which is often something that most people struggle with. You know, there's physical stress as well, but this is more of a conversation on mental emotional health. You know, I had a conversation with a medical doctor one time, and he was arguing the point that stress is strengthening and that our body will get stronger when we stress our body. And I was arguing that stress breaks down the body, okay? And it was kind of an interesting conversation, but I'm going to put a little finer point to that right now. And the idea is about duration and how much you can handle. And I think a lot of times people are just stressed out all the time, and it's just a slow drip, drip, drip that's constant every day, and you don't really realize it, and it catches up with you over time. And you're not going to get stronger from it. Um, it's just going to kind of like beat you up, and slowly it's going to, cause you to age more rapidly. And we want to try to fight against that. We want to age gracefully, right? So let's get into this a little more. You know, a key health principle is regularity, consistency, patterns. And this is going to support the rhythms in the body. The body wants to go through nice, calm, consistent patterns of function or rhythms or cycles. You know, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, eating at the same time, having a similar amount of work every day, and having, a sense of what you can expect every day as opposed to being overwhelmed and not really sure what's coming at you each day. Very unsettling and very stressing and very draining, right? So I kind of highlighted a couple of opposites here to compare. So think about stress versus moderation. So stress, we're going to get terms like being overwhelmed and ideas of irregularity, feeling like you're being pulled in different directions. Okay, so there's taking on too much in the course of a day and being overwhelmed. And then there's irregularity, and think about you don't know what's coming next, right? You got so many things to do, you're not sure if you're going to get them done in time. You've been working on things, you don't know when they're going to be finished. You're overwhelmed by things in life that are stressing you out, family, work, current events, and such, on and on and on. It's all overwhelming. It's coming at you in irregular ways, and it's hard to deal with. And it's just very unsettling, and it's very draining on our energy, and it wears us out a lot quicker. And it leaves us feeling tired, and it can lead down a path of all sorts of chronic health issues, of aches and pains. It can dysregulate body function, and you're not sleeping well, you're not digesting your food well, you don't feel well, anxiety, depression, on and on and on, right? Just a dark hole that we end up in. And then there's moderation. And there's words like tolerable, consistent, feeling comfortable, rooted, grounded, centered. You feel like yourself. You have a sense of being comfortable, a sense of feeling capable, a sense of you've been able to complete things, and having a life that's kind of fulfilling, a sense of seeing things coming your way and not being overwhelmed by them, feeling comfortable about getting through them. There's always problems in life that are going to kind of overwhelm us or be difficult or challenging. But if you're in a state where you feel comfortable, you feel uh, like rested and not tired and beat up, you'll be able to handle those challenges a whole lot better. So sometimes I ask patients, they'll come into the clinic. I'll be like, "So how you feeling today?" And the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, I'm doing good. How are you?" And that's just kind of being cordial and and just kind of like the usual that people will say. But then I'll like to get into it and say, "Look, I'm the complaint department, so feel free to complain to me. How are you feeling today? How's the aches and pains? Whatever." I tend to focus on a lot of chronic pain, digestive issues, sleep issues, hormonal imbalances, emotional imbalances, anxiety, depression. So when the mind is trying to say, I've got this, people say, I'm doing okay. It's like a survival mode. You got to kind of go through that and convince yourself that you can handle it and stuff. But when you really want to find out the truth, you ask the body, you don't ask the mind. So when you ask the body how you're feeling, for example, that, oh, my back hurts, I'm constipated, I got this headache, I can't sleep, and all the truth comes out. The body's not functioning well. So, and oftentimes there's a lot of stress that's underlying all this. And sometimes people have health issues, and if they can address those stress levels, many of the health issues kind of settle down. And then maybe there's one or two real health issues that you could really zero in on at that point. So, working on these fundamentals and trying to smooth out the stress patterns, the stress levels, could be very helpful to your health and kind of restore a balance and help you feel better, get you on a better working path where you can kind of work through your day, work through your life, and manage stress a whole lot better. Even though it's still there, you'll be able to handle it better. Um, a little more of a medical terms here, sympathetic versus parasympathetic mode. Let's talk about this. You know, when we're stressed out, that is going to affect the sympathetic nervous system in the body. We have two basic types of nervous systems in the body, and the sympathetic is the one that deals with stress. The parasympathetic deals with, I'll just say in general, kind of like rejuvenating the body, eating, sleeping, relaxing. But when you're not relaxed and you're busy, you're active, you're stressed out, that's the sympathetic mode. And here's the thing, I talk to people about this and I ask them if they feel stuck in their life. And oftentimes they'll say, yeah, I feel like I can't get going, I can't get moving, I can't get things done, I feel stuck. This is what we call being stuck in sympathetic dominance. In other words, instead of cycling in and out into activity, into rest, into sympathetic mode, into parasympathetic mode, we continue to pile on the stress and it locks us in one mode, sympathetic dominance. Okay, it's like boiling water. This is all yin yang stuff. Yin and yang, the half white, half black round symbol. It's representing two opposites coming together in harmony. And let's just replace that symbol with an image of water boiling. Okay, you got fire and you got water. And you put the fire below the water is above the fire, right? This is common sense. But what happens is when we get locked into sympathetic dominance and we're overwhelmed and we get busy, 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 it's like we're cranking up the fire more and more. And guess what? That water boils a lot faster. Pretty soon we don't have much water in the pot at all. And we got all this fire. And the way nature works is when you start running out of one, this is a collapse of the system. This is going into disease and death, basically, just to just be a matter of fact about it. We want a balance of that fire and that water. And that is the goal for good health. It's not about cranking up the fire more and doing more. It's about trying to be efficient. The idea of moderation, not extremes, okay? A moderate amount of flame, and trying to conserve that water, and you get a nice boil, and that steaming effect is an analogy of function within our body. In other words, health, and how healthy we are, and how long we're going to live in life. And if we have this furious boil that's kind of like out of control, it's going to be a short experience, I would say. So we want to try to conserve and balance, and we want to get out of that stuck, sympathetic, dominant mode. And my suggestion on that is to try, first of all, to be aware and then practice preventative measures to help bring balance. Okay. You got to be aware that you're stressed out. You got to be aware that you're in a state where you feel kind of a little nervous, a little anxious, a little agitated. That's all in this sympathetic mode, this stress mode that's breaking us down. It doesn't help the body to get stronger and stronger and stronger. The body is natural, it has limits, it's not infinite in its resources. And so we need to be supportive of these body functions and these rhythms and not get stuck in one mode, being too active, too busy. And physically you may not be active, but mentally you can be very active, always thinking, overthinking. Okay, we want to look for consistent sleep times, eating times, balance between activity and rest, and we try to avoid overdoing things, even overthinking. A lot of times we have these random thoughts just kind of like flying around in our heads, and for what purpose? A good measure, I guess you could say health is, we all want to be happy in life. That's a healthy idea, right? Being happy. And if we're always kind of like edgy and nervous and in a state of, uncertainty, I mean, that's not happiness, right? And we're busy minded and such, when we have thoughts, we need to have resolution with those thoughts. And if we're always kind of like we have unsettled overthinking type thoughts, this is just beating us up, using up our energy. That's a waste of resources, right? We need sustainability. We need to kind of think about the long run, and we want to conserve our energy. And we do that through practices in moderation, consistency, and not extremes. So think about promoting consistency in your life to promote better health. Try to be consistent with your sleep times, with your eating times to nourish your body and get energy from good quality foods. Think about activity and rest and how they're balancing to each other. You could be overly active and have a hard time sleeping. You could be underactive, lounging around all day, and have a hard time sleeping because the body's already kind of rested a bit and doesn't want to really it's hard to get into a sleep cycle. So think about the balance between activity and rest, okay, and be consistent. Going to bed at a certain time, waking up at a certain time. And a big thing is overthinking what the mind is doing because that can get out of control. And then a self-care tip that I want to focus on is breathing. Even breathing is like a cycle, right? We breathe in, we breathe out, and we can actually activate the parasympathetic and the sympathetic mode with our breathing. So think about sympathetic mode, okay? This is a mode of stress and excitement. And when you breathe, your breathing will change when you're excited, you know? If you ever get excited, you kind of suck in air, you're like, wow, that's exciting, right? Your breathing will change. Well, a breathing technique here to shift you away from sympathetic mode, the stress mode, into parasympathetic mode would be to focus on long exhales, which can help get you unstuck and shift you out of that kind of deteriorating, degrading type mode, that busy mindedness. Okay, got to snap yourself out of that once in a while and focus on long exhales. So what that would kind of like sound like and look like is you would first start with a gentle, comfortable inhale and hold it for just a moment, okay? Just like less than a second. And then exhale and be intentional and let that exhale go on for a nice long time. Think of like a pressure cooker. When we're stressed and we're busy, we're kind of full inside and we need to get it out. We need to empty to get relaxed. We're full inside and that energy is lifting us up. It's unsettling. It's like almost like carrying us off our feet, and we want to be rooted and grounded. So we need to let that excess out, let our body kind of sink back down, if you will, get off our toes, that kind of anxious state, and settle back into the roots. Think of like a tree and the roots in the ground, and that's where it's getting its nourishment from and its connection to life. And if it's disconnected and uprooted, how that would be, you know, totally against the health of that life form, that tree. And same with us. We need to be grounded and rooted. So again, take an inhale, hold it for a moment, and then nice long exhale. Just let it out, nice and comfortable. Allow yourself to relax. Allow yourself to feel like you're sinking and settling and calming down with each exhale. You're letting out the poison. You're letting out the toxins, which with every breath. Hey, Christy, I saw you chime in earlier there. Uh, so you try this a few times. You can turn this into a meditative practice. You could just practice this throughout the day, maybe for 10 minutes or so, just practicing nice long exhales. And what your goal is to feel yourself shift into a relaxing state. Okay. You could also just try this throughout the day, just a few breaths. Sometimes you may be walking around and you feel kind of busy minded and you feel yourself kind of getting a little tense and you don't like that feeling. And this is all good because you're becoming very aware of yourself and how you're feeling and how that's making you feel. And so you work on exhaling, nice long exhales, just as you're going about your day. And you can just let that out, let that excess out. Try to bring back some balance and some rooting and see how that makes you feel. And sometimes just a few breaths can just kind of resettle things and shift things into a better way, get you away from that sympathetic mode into a more parasympathetic, relaxing kind of state. And that's where we want to be. There's an axiom I recall that says tension is who you think you are. Let me repeat that. Tension is who you think you should be, and relaxation is who you are. So when you're in a relaxed mode, you're really being your natural self, working from a place where you feel comfortable and competent and content and happy. And that's where we should try to be most of the time. Life is going to have challenges. You got to go to school, you got to learn things, you're going to have some stresses. But you don't want that to be the dominant state that is just drip, 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 taking you down, wearing you out, and leaving you ragged. We want support, we want uplifting, we want momentum moving forward. And that's going to come from moderation, consistency. Okay, so try that breathing technique. Again, inhaling and then letting out a nice long exhale. Get the excess out, feel yourself relaxing, and use that as a technique. In the beginning, new things are a little uh, unusual, and you got to get used to them. And over time, you can work on them, get them more comfortable. And sometimes it just takes a few breaths to kind of like shift you back into a nice, comfortable state. Something on the news unsettles you, somebody says an unkind word, something happens, you get into a traffic jam, you feel kind of stressed out, you take a few breaths, you exhale, and let that tension out. Shift you back. Don't get stuck in sympathetic dominance. Learn how to play with that, and hopefully you find this technique helpful. And one thing I like to point out is when it comes to trying to control your breathing, sometimes people have a hard time working with that. And if you start feeling uncomfortable, you need to stop and seek out professional guidance so that you don't hurt yourself and cause some trouble. The whole point of this exercise is to feel comfortable and relaxed. And when you're doing it, you should feel that right away. One breath, you should feel comfortable. If you're ever feeling uncomfortable through the exercises, this self-care tip, then just stop and seek out some help. If you're a patient of mine, you can always chat me up about this. I'd love to talk about these sort of things. There's a billion tips out there I love to share. I can only get them out one at a, so much at a time. And I'd like to do more, and I plan to do more. So stay tuned and give me some feedback, and perhaps it'll guide me and inspire me to come up with some more ideas to share with you. Okay, until next time, take care of yourself.